The galaxy had changed. Once every corner of space trembled at the mere mention of the Kashar dominion. Entire species bent their knees, their spirits crushed before their bodies. Fear had been absolute, but now, after months of conflict, the Dominion knew something new. They had underestimated humanity. The war had not been easy. Human fleets were smaller, their ships lighter and their weapons weaker than the massive Kashar armadas. Yet humanity had used what they had with unmatched skill. They did not rely on brute force, they relied on intelligence, courage, and unity. Where the Dominion had expected fear, they found none. Where they had expected submission, they found defiance. And with every battle, the humans inspired others. Rebellions flared on enslaved worlds. Miners sabotaged Dominion factories. Scientists on distant planets passed intelligence to human fleets. The galaxy that had once lived in silence now murmured hope. On Earth, Captain Elena Rourke and her officers studied the latest intelligence reports. A massive Kashar fleet was approaching, larger than anything they had faced before. Their mission was no longer simply survival. It was to strike decisively and change the course of history. Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, watching stars streak past the window. Her crew was tense but determined. "This is it," she said. "We may be outnumbered, but we are never outmatched in spirit. Every move we make counts. Remember what we are fighting for. Our home, our freedom, and every species that dreams of freedom alongside us." The humans had learned well from every encounter. They used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and advanced strategies to neutralize the Kashar advantage. Fleets split into small groups, striking at weak points, then vanishing into asteroid belts or nebula clouds. Supply lines were destroyed. Communication hubs were disabled. Entire Dominion warships disappeared without warning. For the Kashar, each defeat was a shock. Their soldiers had been trained to face any challenge with calm precision. Yet these humans fought with unpredictability and courage that no training could prepare for. Commander Vornak, once a veteran of hundreds of battles, stared at the sensor readouts in disbelief. Entire fleets had vanished into empty space, victims of human ambushes. Reports of human victories of the smallest vessels striking critical blows left him shaken. "They are not just fighting," Vornak admitted quietly. "They are teaching us fear, the fear of a race that cannot be broken." High Commander Zirak's council meetings grew tense. Dominion strategy, long perfected over centuries, was failing. No longer was the galaxy under their absolute control. Humanity had become a beacon, a symbol that inspired rebellion and courage across countless worlds. On the distant slave worlds, whispers turned into action. Miners sabotaged engines, farmers destroyed supplies, and rebels coordinated attacks with human fleets. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw cracks in the Dominion's armor, not just in their ships, but in their control over fear itself. In one daring mission, a human squadron struck the Dominion's primary communications hub in orbit around a conquered planet. Using small, fast ships, they bypassed heavy defenses and disabled the main systems. Dominion fleets were left confused and disorganized, unable to coordinate their strikes. The humans vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the message, "We are everywhere. We are never broken." Even the surviving Kashar began to see the truth. Humanity was terrifying, not because of cruelty or raw power, but because of spirit. Where the Dominion had used fear to control, humans used hope to inspire. Where the Dominion had relied on obedience, humans relied on willpower and unity. A captured Dominion officer, speaking quietly to his fellow prisoners, said, "We thought terror was absolute. But humans redefine it. They are not afraid of what we are. That is something none of us can comprehend." Across the galaxy, the phrase spread, "Humans do not break." The turning point came when the humans coordinated a massive assault on the Dominion's flagship fleet. They used every trick they had learned: decoys, electronic interference, surprise attacks from multiple directions. The Dominion ships, confident in their superiority, were caught off guard. Entire warships were disabled, and critical leaders were forced to retreat. It was a victory, not of numbers, but of spirit and strategy. Humanity had shown that even the most powerful forces in the galaxy could be challenged when courage and intelligence were combined. Back on Earth, celebrations were brief, but heartfelt. Humanity knew the war was far from over. But they had proven something important. The Kashar were not invincible. And more importantly, hope had returned to the galaxy. In the liberated systems, once slaves began rebuilding their worlds. Farmers planted fields, engineers repaired cities, and scientists worked to restore communication networks. Humanity did not conquer or enslave. They offered aid, guidance, and protection. Freedom spread not as a weapon, but as a gift. The Kashar dominion, once feared across countless stars, began to crumble, not through defeat of arms alone, but through the loss of fear. Where the dominion had relied on terror to rule, humans had shown that courage, unity, and hope were far stronger. High Commander Zirak, facing his council for what might be the last time, admitted the truth none of them had wanted to acknowledge. The humans are unlike any we have faced. They do not fear. They do not break, and now they inspire others to rise. If we do not act carefully, we will lose not just battles but the galaxy itself. Even Vornak, veteran of countless wars, had to agree. He looked at the stars with a sense of awe and fear. Humanity had become a force the Dominion could not destroy, not because of ships or weapons, but because of the unbreakable spirit of an entire species. In the far reaches of the galaxy, the enslaved, the oppressed, and the free alike whispered the same name: humanity. It was no longer a race confined to one blue planet. It was an idea, a symbol, a new terror that the galaxy had never known. They fought not for cruelty, not for domination, but for survival, freedom, and hope. And that made them unstoppable. Captain Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking out into the vast expanse of stars. Her fleet had won a decisive battle, but she knew the work was not done. "Remember this," she said to her crew. "We do not fight to terrify. We fight to protect, to inspire, to show the galaxy that courage can never be conquered. And as long as we hold that truth, humanity will endure." Her words spread across the fleet. Every pilot, every crew member, every soldier understood. They were part of something greater than themselves, a movement that had already changed the galaxy. The Dominion had once defined terror. They had built their empire on the fear of others. But now, that empire faced a new reality. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. True terror is not cruelty or power. It is a force that cannot be broken, a spirit that will not yield. And that force belongs to humanity. Even the most loyal Kashar soldiers, those who had never known defeat, felt it deep in their hearts. The humans were coming, and they brought with them a new kind of power, not of domination, not of fear, but of courage, hope, and unyielding spirit. The galaxy whispered it in awe, fear, and admiration. We thought we knew terror, until humanity arrived, and with that a new era began. The world of the Veari was quiet, too quiet. Their once bright cities were now dim, their towers standing tall but lifeless, their skies filled with silent machines that no longer worked. The people moved slowly through the streets, their faces showing the same thought. The end was near. The Veari had been a strong and proud race. They were explorers of the stars, builders of great ships, and masters of powerful energy that lit their homes and powered their machines. For thousands of years they believed their knowledge was enough to protect them from anything. But now that belief was breaking apart. Their energy cores, the heart of their civilization, were dying. One by one, the massive cores that powered cities and ships had gone dark. No one could fix them. The smartest minds of the Veari had tried for years, but every attempt ended the same way: failure. Without the energy cores, the Veari world was collapsing. Every day more towers went dark. Every day more ships became useless metal shells in orbit. And every day the hope of the people faded. The Veari Council, the group of leaders who guided their people, met in the Grand Chamber. The chamber itself showed signs of decay. The glowing pillars were faint, and the once loud hum of the energy crystals was gone. High Chancellor Taerith spoke first. His voice was heavy, filled with the weight of his people's despair. "We have called for help," he said. "We have sent messages across the galaxy, to every advanced race we know. And what answer did we receive?" "Nothing," replied Counselor Arenth, her voice sharp with anger. "Not a single reply. Not from the Andari, not from the Zeth, not from the great powers who once called us allies. We are abandoned," the council members murmured. Some were angry, some were silent, and some were simply too tired to speak. "We are not abandoned," said a younger voice. Counselor Kalen, the youngest member of the council, stood tall, though his eyes betrayed fear. "We are still here, and we still have one last chance." Chancellor Taerith turned to him. "One last chance? What do you mean?" Our final communication beacon has only enough power for one more message. Who shall we send it to? There is no one left to call. Kalen took a deep breath. He knew what he was about to say would not be welcomed. But he had thought long and hard, and in his heart, he believed it was the only choice left. We send it to Earth, he said. The chamber fell silent. Counselor Arenth's eyes widened. Earth, you mean the human world? That primitive species? They have barely touched the stars. Their technology is centuries behind ours. What help could they possibly give? They are reckless, said another elder counselor. Unpredictable. They fight among themselves more than they build. You would trust them with our last hope? Kalen did not look away. His voice grew stronger. Yes, because they are reckless. Because they are unpredictable. But most of all, because they survive. No matter the danger, no matter the odds, humans do not give up. Every record we have studied, every signal we have intercepted, every small story about them, it all shows one truth. When others would surrender, humans find a way. They are not the most powerful. They are not the most advanced, but they are the most stubborn. The chamber echoed with whispers. Some council members shook their heads. Others looked uncertain. Chancellor Tareth stared at Kalen. Do you understand what you are asking? To place the fate of our people in the hands of a race we barely know? A race that may not even respond? This is madness, Kalen nodded. Yes, it is madness. But what other choice do we have? We have sent messages to those we thought were friends. They left us in silence. No one else came. We have one message left. One. If we do nothing, our world will die in darkness. But if we send it to Earth, at least there is a chance. Arenth slammed her hand against the table. And if they laugh at us? If they cannot even understand? If they come only to scavenge from our ruins? Kalen met her eyes. Then we are no worse off than we are now. At least we tried. The council chamber went silent again. The weight of Kalen's words pressed on everyone. Finally, Chancellor Tareth sighed. His shoulders slumped. You are young, Kalen. Perhaps too young. But maybe it takes young eyes to see what old ones cannot. Perhaps you are right. We have no other option. He looked around at the others. Let us vote. One by one, the counselors raised their hands. Some did so with reluctance, others with quiet resignation. When the last hand was raised, Tareth closed his eyes. It is decided. We will send our last message to Earth. In the dark control chamber, the final beacon stood waiting. It was a tall machine of silver and crystal, its inner lights faint and weak. It had power for one last signal, no more. Technicians prepared the message. Their hands moved carefully as though they feared one wrong touch would end all hope. Kalen himself stood among them, overseeing every word. The message was simple. It spoke of the Vaery's history, of their dying cores, of their need for help. It promised nothing in return because there was nothing left to promise. It was not a command, not a demand. It was a plea. When the message was ready, the technicians looked to Kalen. He looked at the counselors who had gathered to witness. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Kalen placed his hand on the beacon's control. His voice was steady. Let this not be the end. Let this be the call that brings hope. He pressed the control. The beacon flared with weak light, and the message was cast into the void of space. Far above the Vaery world, the signal left their dying skies. It passed broken satellites and silent stations. It crossed the cold emptiness of space, carrying the last hope of an entire people. The Vaery stood in silence. Some wept. Some bowed their heads. Some simply stared at the beacon as though it were a candle flickering against endless night. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Chancellor Tareth whispered the truth that all of them now knew. With no other option, we sent one last message. To a human. The night was quiet at the small mountain observatory on Earth. Stars filled the sky like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Inside the control room, computers hummed and the great dish outside turned slowly, listening to the universe. Dr. Elena Marlowe sat at her desk, sipping cold coffee, her eyes heavy from long hours. She had spent years searching the skies, hoping for something extraordinary, but most nights gave her nothing but static. Tonight she expected the same. Her young assistant Raj leaned back in his chair and sighed. Another night of silence, he muttered. Elena smiled faintly. The universe is a big place. Silence doesn't mean nothing is out there. As if to prove her words, the console suddenly beeped. A line of strange data scrolled across the screen. Raj sat up straight. What is that? He asked, excitement breaking through his boredom. Elena's tired eyes widened. The signal was unlike any she had ever seen. Not random noise, not the usual radio chatter from satellites or Earth's machines. This was structured, ordered, a message, record everything, she said quickly. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. This isn't interference. This is real. The room filled with a tense silence as the data kept coming. A pulse, a rhythm, a repeating pattern. Someone or something was speaking. By morning, the small team of scientists at the observatory gathered in a circle around the screens. They had run the signal through translators, computers, and pattern analyzers. Slowly, the message revealed itself. It was a plea. Words broken but clear enough. Help us. Our world is dying. Our energy cores are failing. We have no hope, please. The scientists stared in awe. For generations, humans had dreamed of contact with life beyond Earth. And now it was here. Raj whispered, "It's them. It's aliens." Elena's heart raced. She looked at the others. Not just aliens, survivors. They're asking for help. News of the signal spread quickly to government offices. Soon, the observatory was surrounded by security, and the message was carried to the highest levels of power. In a secret meeting room, leaders of Earth's nations gathered. The air was tense, filled with doubt and curiosity. A general spoke first. "It could be a trap. If we answer, we may be leading ourselves into danger." A politician shook his head. "Or it could be the greatest opportunity in human history. Proof that we are not alone." Another leader leaned forward. "The question is simple. Do we ignore the call or do we respond?" Arguments broke out. Some feared invasion, others feared wasting resources, but a few voices argued for courage. Elena was invited to speak before them. Standing before the leaders of Earth, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. "They are asking us for help," she said firmly. "We don't know if we can save them. But if we turn away now, what does that say about us? We've always dreamed of reaching the stars, of finding others. Now they have found us and they are dying. I say we go." The room fell silent. Her words hung in the air. Finally, one by one, the leaders agreed. Humanity would answer. A mission was planned in secret. The world was not yet ready for open panic or excitement, so only a chosen few knew the truth. A ship would be sent. Not a great warship, not a massive fleet, but a small vessel built for exploration. It would carry a team of brave volunteers. The ship was named Endeavor. It was not the largest or fastest craft, but it was strong, reliable, and built with both science and survival in mind. Captain James Hale was chosen to lead. A calm, steady man with years of spaceflight experience, he carried himself with quiet confidence. His crew was small but skilled. Dr. Elena Marlowe, the scientist who first discovered the signal. Raj Patel, her young assistant, eager and brilliant with computers. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks, a soldier trained for dangerous missions. Engineer Luis Ortega, a man who could fix anything with his hands. Dr. Miriam Lee, a physician with nerves of steel. Together, they formed humanity's first crew to answer a call beyond the stars. The launch day came. At a hidden spaceport, the Endeavor stood tall, its silver hull gleaming under the floodlights. The crew stood before it, nervous but determined. Raj whispered to Elena, "Do you think they'll even understand us?" Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "They reached out to us. That means they're listening. We just have to try." Captain Hale gave a short speech to his team. "We don't know what waits for us out there. We may find a dying world. We may find nothing at all, but we go because someone asked for help, and that is enough." The engines roared and the Endeavor rose into the sky, breaking free of Earth's gravity. Humanity's first mission to another civilization had begun. Days passed as the ship crossed the dark silence of space. The crew kept busy with training, checks, and long conversations. But in quiet moments, each of them thought the same thing. What if they were too late? One night, Elena sat in the observation dome staring at the stars. Captain Hale joined her. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "I keep thinking about them. Imagine the fear they must feel. Their world dying, no one answering their cries. And then they sent one last message to us." "Why us?" Hale looked at the stars. "Maybe because no one else would listen. Or maybe because we're exactly what they need. Stubborn, reckless humans who don't know how to quit." Elena smiled faintly. "I hope you're right." At last, the Endeavor reached the coordinates hidden within the alien signal. The crew gathered at the windows. Before them hung a silent system. The Vayari homeworld came into view. It was beautiful, with silver seas and tall mountains, but the signs of decay were clear even from orbit. The skies above the cities were filled with broken ships. Towers below flickered weakly with fading lights. Raj whispered, "My God." They weren't lying. They're really dying. The crew fell silent. They could almost feel the weight of the alien world's despair pressing against them. Captain Hale stood tall. "Prepare for landing. Let's meet them face to face." As the Endeavour descended, the crew saw figures waiting near a landing platform. Tall, slender beings with glowing eyes, their posture weary but their faces filled with hope. The Vayari had gathered, staring upward at the strange human ship. They had sent their last message into the dark, not knowing if anyone would ever hear it. And now, against all odds, someone had come. Dr. Elena Marlowe felt her heart race as the landing gear touched the alien ground. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and for the Vayari, hope had returned. The human ship Endeavour rested gently on the Vayari landing platform. Its silver hull shone faintly under the weak light of the alien sun. For a long moment there was silence. Both sides, humans inside the ship and Vayari outside, simply stared at one another. It was the moment when two civilizations finally met. Inside, the crew stood by the ramp. Captain James Hale looked calm, though his heart beat fast. Dr. Elena Marlowe held a small recorder, her eyes wide with awe. Raj Patel fidgeted nervously, adjusting his glasses. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks stood tall, her hand near her sidearm ready for anything. Engineer Luis Ortega and Dr. Miriam Lee waited quietly, their faces tense with anticipation. "Remember," Captain Hale said softly, "we came here because they asked for help. We show respect. We show kindness. No matter what happens, we stand together." The crew nodded. Slowly the ramp began to lower. A hiss of air escaped and the humans stepped out onto alien soil. The Vayari stood in a line, their tall bodies elegant but fragile. Their skin was pale, almost glowing under the sun. Their large eyes shimmered with faint light, reflecting colors that humans had never seen before. They wore long robes with strange symbols, but the robes were worn and faded, much like their world. One of the Vayari stepped forward. He was older, his movements slow but graceful. His voice when he spoke was soft yet clear. "Are you the humans?" The crew exchanged quick glances. Elena stepped forward and nodded. "Yes, we are from Earth. We received your message." A murmur ran through the Vayari. Some looked amazed, others doubtful. The old leader bowed his head. "Then the beacon did not fail. We feared no one would answer." Captain Hale spoke firmly. "We heard your call. We came because you asked for help." The Vayari leader's eyes glimmered. "I am Terith, High Chancellor of the Council. Welcome, humans, to the world of the Vayari." The humans followed the Vayari into their city. Once it must have been a place of wonder. Towering structures stretched high, their surfaces covered in shining crystal. Bridges connected buildings in graceful arcs. But now the towers flickered weakly and many had gone dark. The once bright streets were dim, filled with silent machines and weary citizens. Raj whispered to Elena as they walked. "It's like a city at the end of its life." Elena nodded. "Yes, beautiful, but fading." The people of the city stopped to watch. Tall, tired faces looked at the humans with a mix of hope and doubt. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide as they saw visitors from another world. Inside the Grand Council chamber, the humans stood before the full gathering of Vayari leaders. The chamber was vast, but its glowing pillars were weak, casting long shadows across the floor. Chancellor Terith spoke. "Humans, we are grateful, but you must understand the truth. Our world is dying. Our energy cores, the great machines that give power to our cities, have been failing for generations. Our best minds cannot repair them. Without the cores, we cannot survive." He lowered his head. "We sent messages to all the great powers we once called allies. None came, none even answered. Only you, and so we ask, can you save us?" The chamber fell silent. Every Vayari eye turned to the humans. Captain Hale looked at Elena. She stepped forward. "We are not the most advanced race. Our technology may seem small compared to yours, but we will try. We will not turn away." A faint stir of hope moved through the chamber, but not all were convinced. Counselor Arenth, a sharp-eyed Vayari, rose from her seat. Her voice was strong and skeptical. "Humans are young, reckless, primitive. What can they possibly offer us that our own scientists could not? Perhaps they came only to see us fall. Elena stood her ground. Maybe we are young. Maybe we are reckless. But sometimes that is what survival takes. We don't give up easily. We fight for every chance. If you let us, we will fight for you too. Her words echoed. Some counselors nodded slowly while others remained doubtful. Later, the humans were taken to see one of the failing energy cores. The journey brought them deep beneath the city, into vast tunnels where enormous machines pulsed weakly with fading light. The core was breathtaking, tall towers of crystal and metal, surrounded by humming circuits that now sputtered with sparks. The air smelled of heat and ozone. Engineer Ortega's eyes widened. This is incredible. Technology beyond anything on Earth, but he touched a broken panel. It's falling apart badly. Veyari scientists stood nearby, their faces grim. One of them, a frail figure named Sorel, shook his head. We tried everything. Every calculation, every repair. Nothing holds. The cores are too complex, too delicate. They cannot be fixed. Luis knelt beside a shattered conduit, examining it with his tools. Maybe not the way you tried. But we humans, we're good at patching things together. We don't always need perfect answers. Sometimes we just need something that works. The Veyari scientists looked puzzled. Patch? Crude repairs cannot save an energy core. Luis smiled faintly. Maybe not forever, but long enough to give you time, long enough to breathe again. For the next several days, the humans worked side by side with the Veyari. Elena studied the crystals. Raj wrote translation programs to link human computers with alien systems, and Luis began experimenting with temporary fixes. The Veyari watched with disbelief. The humans crawled through broken tunnels covered in dust, laughing even as they worked. They used scraps of their own ship's technology, combined with pieces of Veyari machines. Their methods looked messy, unplanned, but sometimes the machines sparked back to life. Dr. Lee cared for sick Veyari children, using human medicine in creative ways. Sarah Brooks trained with the city guards, showing them new techniques for defense. Everywhere the humans went, they left a spark of energy behind. At first, many Veyari doubted, but slowly they began to see something strange. Where the humans went, small victories followed. One evening, Chancellor Terith visited the humans. He found Elena sitting near the glowing core, her face lit by its faint light. You humans are different, he said quietly. Elena looked up. Different? He nodded. We Veyari do not act unless the path is clear. We do not risk without certainty, but you move forward even when you cannot see the end. You dare to hope when hope is gone? Elena smiled gently. Sometimes that's the only way to survive. Terith's eyes shone. Perhaps that is why we called you. Perhaps that is what we needed all along. But danger was not gone. As the humans and Veyari worked, alarms suddenly echoed through the tunnels. One of the nearby cores had collapsed entirely, sending waves of power failure across the city. Panic spread. Lights died. Machines shut down. Families cried out in fear. The humans acted at once.
Captain Hale barked orders.
Brooks, keep the people calm. Luis, Raj with me, let's stabilize what we can. Elena, Dr. Lee, help the wounded. The Veyari stared in shock. Where they froze in fear, the humans moved with speed and purpose. Through smoke and failing light, the crew worked together. Luis rigged a bypass using human tools. Raj wrote emergency code in minutes. Elena directed frightened scientists to assist. After hours of chaos, the failing system steadied. Power flickered back, weak but alive. The city was saved for now. When it was over, the Veyari stood in silence. They looked at the humans not with doubt, but with awe. Counselor Arenth herself whispered, "They did not wait for perfect solutions. They acted, and they saved us." That night, the city glowed faintly once more. The people looked to the skies with new hope. The humans had not brought miracles. They had brought something else: courage, determination, and the will to fight against the impossible. And for the first time, the Veyari began to believe. Maybe survival was not just a dream. Maybe with the humans at their side, it could be real. The Veyari city was alive with a quiet energy, fragile but persistent. The humans had shown them that even in the darkest hour, action could bring hope. But the work was far from over. Every day was a battle against machines that had not been designed to fail, and a civilization on the edge of collapse. Captain James, Hale walked alongside Luis Ortega and Raj Patel through the flickering corridors beneath the city. Sparks flew from broken conduits and the hum of the remaining cores was weak, yet the humans moved with confidence as if challenges were opportunities. "Luis, can we reinforce the energy grid before the next core fails?" Hale asked, his voice steady. Luis examined the failing conduits. "We can try. It won't be perfect, but it should hold long enough to stabilize the city. We just need more time and access to the central core." Raj nodded. "I'll rewrite the interface. We can link human and Vayari systems. That should give us better control." Hale looked at the young engineer and smiled faintly. "Good, let's get to work." Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Marlowe moved through the medical and scientific sectors of the city. She visited the children who had been sick, speaking softly in both English and broken Vayari phrases she had learned. Though they could not fully understand, her warmth was clear. Dr. Miriam Lee assisted, teaching the Vayari how to use human medical devices and adapt their treatments. "Sometimes you don't need perfect medicine," Lee said. "You just need the right approach and quick action. Survival depends on trying even if the tools aren't ideal." The Vayari watched them with growing respect. They had once considered humans primitive. Now they realized humans possessed a resource no technology could measure: determination. Days passed in a blur of work. The humans and Vayari worked side by side, repairing systems, rewiring machines, and rerouting energy. Slowly, they began to see results. Lights flickered brighter, streets hummed with weak but steady power, and communication systems started to function again. But disaster struck when one of the most critical cores, the Eastern Core, began to overload. Alarms blared across the city. The Vayari ran in panic, unsure what to do. The humans moved without hesitation. Captain Hale took charge. "Brooks, organize evacuation. Luis, Raj, with me, stabilize the core now. Elena, Dr. Lee, get people to safe zones." Lieutenant Sarah Brooks barked orders, directing citizens with calm authority. Panic was everywhere, but her leadership kept the chaos from becoming catastrophe. Luis Ortega, climbing into the heart of the failing core, shouted over the alarms. "This is bad. If this goes, half the city loses power." Raj's fingers flew across his tablet. "I'm rerouting circuits to balance the load. We can hold it temporarily." Hale directed the operation, coordinating the humans and Vayari scientists. Sweat ran down his face, but his voice remained steady. "Focus! Move fast! Livs are counting on us." As sparks flew and metal groaned, Elena noticed a group of frightened Vayari children trapped in a side tunnel. Without hesitation, she ran to them, carrying the smallest in her arms and guiding the others to safety. Dr. Lee followed, calming those who cried. The humans' actions inspired the Vayari to help themselves. Slowly, fear turned into purpose. The citizens began assisting in evacuation, working alongside the humans. After tense hours, the core stabilized. The alarms fell silent. Weak power returned to the city. No lives had been lost. The Vayari looked at the humans in awe. Counselor Arenth, once skeptical, spoke quietly to herself. "They acted when we froze. They did not wait, and they saved us." That night, exhausted but alive, the crew gathered in the observation hall of the city. The lights were dim, but there was a glow of pride and hope in the Vayari faces around them. Tayrith, the High Chancellor, addressed the humans. "You have shown us something we had forgotten. We are great, yes. We are intelligent, yes. But alone we are fragile. You, humans, you do not wait for certainty. You act, you fight. You do not surrender." Elena listened, feeling the weight of his words. "We act because we must, because someone asked for help. That is enough reason." Tayrith nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is why our world reached for you. In our darkest hour you answered." The humans and Vayari worked tirelessly over the following weeks. Together they designed a hybrid energy system, human reactor technology combined with Vayari crystal cores. The work was dangerous. Many times sparks flew and conduits exploded. Many times the system failed entirely, yet the humans never gave up. Luis Ortega, covered in grime and sweat, looked at the team. "It's rough, but it's alive. We can make it work," Raj smiled. "It's not perfect, but it's enough to keep the city running. That's all that matters." Elena carefully monitored the crystal's reactions. "This is the start. If we keep going, we can stabilize the rest of the cores." The Vayari began to participate more actively, inspired by the humans' determination. They had once thought survival was impossible. Now they believed it was within reach. One day, as they were reinforcing the northern core, another crisis erupted. A series of explosions in the outskirts of the city threatened to destroy vital systems. The humans moved instantly. Captain Hale organized teams. Luis and Raj rushed to the damaged cores. Elena and Dr. Lee helped evacuate citizens. Sarah Brooks coordinated defense teams to prevent chaos from spreading. It was the most dangerous day yet. The humans climbed, ran, lifted, and ran again. Every second counted. The Vayari watched, stunned by their courage. Finally, the explosions subsided. The city had survived. Lives had been saved. Tareth stood among the crowd. His eyes shone as he watched the humans. "I understand now," he whispered to himself. "This is what makes them special." The weeks of work began to pay off. The city grew stronger. Energy flowed steadily. Communication systems operated reliably. The people of the Vayari, once paralyzed by fear, began to move with confidence. Children played in the streets again. Markets reopened. Families laughed. Hope, once thought impossible, had returned. Counselor Aranth approached Elena one morning. "I underestimated you," she admitted softly. "I underestimated humans. You taught us to fight when we thought nothing was left. You taught us that action can create miracles." Elena smiled. "We just keep moving forward. That's all." At night, the humans gathered outside the city, looking at the faint glow of repaired towers. The stars above seemed brighter than ever. Captain Hale spoke quietly. "We didn't bring miracles. We brought persistence, courage, and hope." "That's enough for them," Elena nodded. "And that's what they needed. Sometimes being human isn't about power or perfection. It's about not giving up when everything seems lost," Luis added with a grin, "and maybe a little bit of crazy determination." They laughed, tired but proud. The Vayari had survived the impossible. Against all odds, a dying world was beginning to heal, and deep in their hearts, the humans knew the story was far from over. There were still challenges, still systems to repair, still lives to protect. But for the first time, the Vayari truly believed they could survive. And that belief was the first victory.